I want to start the recording. Okay. So it's day one of a celebration of difference. And I'm so happy that you guys are here. This is I do a lot of times, in the past, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, I've done this 5 days of creation thing between Christmas and New Year's. And it's always like, it's a 5-part Zoom call. And it's been really amazing. And it's been such a gift. And this year I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be traveling. I'm not going to really be online. So I chose to not do it, but I was like, oh, I want to do something. So we did this instead. And really, we were chatting on my team about this idea of being a wonderful weirdo. And we're like, why don't we do something about being a wonderful weirdo? I'm an X-Men facilitator, so we'll talk a little bit about what that is for those of you who don't know what that is. As part of Access Consciousness, it's one of the specialty classes. And X-Men are wonderful weirdos, truly. And also very different in the world, like people who function really differently than the rest of the world. And this is a conversation I love to get out there into the world because most of us we don't grow up with this conversation. We don't really have access to it. And I'd like to change that. X-Men. So it's hilarious because I can't do my math. So I was like, December 20th through 25th, we'll do 5 days. It's actually 6 days because I can't count. I've done that before on the 5 days of creation. So we're going to go 6 days because why not? And if anybody wants to be with me on Christmas, we'll be together on Christmas. And I will let you know in advance. Probably the day before, I'll let you know when I'm going to be live, so you can be here with me. It just kind of depends on the day. Might be around this time. I don't know what my schedule is, but I will give you some warning. And if you guys would like to converse with each other, there's the comments. I don't know if it's below for you or whatever, but in the channel, you can write in the comments, but you can also be in the main Heather Nichols Telegram chat. It's called Heather Nichols Creations, and that's a group. So this is a channel, that's a group. In the group, you can converse with each other in a different way. So let's have a chat. Let's have some conversations about being the wonderful weirdos that we be, about like really being different. And, this time of year is one of those times of year where there's more stuff going on. There's more people. Some of us are around a lot more people than usual. Some of us are around a lot less. And for me, it's often a time where I'm around more people. And I almost always have family stuff. This year, I'm not doing that. I'm like hunkering in my house and ice skating and, creating. So I'm kind of happy about that. But I'm also like more alone than usual, which isn't always fun either, so it's like, I know for me, I'm like, I want to be around people, but then when I am, it's sort of exhausting. And then I want to be alone. But then when I am, I'm like, oh, I kind of want to hang out with somebody, and this is all part of being a wonderful weirdo. So let me just start from sort of the beginning in a way. For those of you who have not really had familiarity with the X-Men conversation, X-Men are people that like truly are kind of a different species, and function differently. Humanoids and X-Men function really differently than the rest of the world. And we that are aware, exactly. So specifically, X-Men have a different, their brain functions differently. Now, that you could say an X-Men is somebody who has tendencies toward ADD, ADHD, OCD, and autism. I would say I have tendencies toward all of those things, all combined. And I also, for me, wouldn't necessarily be diagnosed with those things. Which is one of the ways for me that I didn't really know I was different, because I could make the world work for me. I could make school work. I could make all those things work. But it wasn't like I was really having a blast with it. I was like, sure, I can force myself to do school, and it's going to be really hard, and it's not going to be easy, and I'm going to have to like figure out how to study to make it work, or work or jobs or like any type of interacting with people. It's like, let me learn how to do this so that I know, because I don't inherently know. So I'm going to study the ways of the world, and then I'm going to use my brilliance to like do that. But I'm not going to have any idea really. It's not going to be a natural thing, because none of this stuff comes naturally to you. And that's the good news. That's part of being a wonderful weirdo. And that's part of being different, is that you, as a humanoid, as an X-Men or X-Men that you may know, you do not function like the rest of the world. And therein lies your greatness. Therein lies your brilliance. Therein lies your capacity to create something completely different in so many different ways, in so many different areas of life. But you have to get into allowance of you. You have to get into this space of, it's very helpful to learn. It's been very helpful for me and others from what I've seen to learn some things about how X-Men function. And for me to go, oh, that's how my brain works. No wonder I never got like how to relate to people based on judgment and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. I remember as a kid, I'm going to tell you a funny story. I was like 5 or something. And I took my friend one day, and I was like, we had this fig orchard in my front yard. And I grew up in California, and I had this amazing fig orchard in our front yard. And so we went out and we like hid behind a fig tree, and I was wearing a dress. I didn't have underwear on. And I was like, we're going to jump out and we're going to lift up our dresses in front of all the cars that pass by. And so all these cars were driving by, and we jump out from behind the tree and we go, wow, And for me, it was like this thing that always went on in my world that still does. It's still very much a part of me, where I'm like, if there's something that people have judgment about, or there's something that people are really awkward about, or they don't want to talk about, or it's like taboo, I really want to talk about it. I really want to do it, So I was always like, oh, you all don't like nudity? Well, here you go. Oh, it's wrong to do this? Oh, okay. And I was just this like precocious little fireball as a kid, who was like, let me just like expose the elephant in the room, with what I do, with how I roll, with how I function. And it was just like, I didn't realize that was like, I was always just kind of like, why? Like, why is there anything that you can't talk about? Like, why do we need to hide shit? I don't understand, That's an X-Men, because X-Men don't have filters. We don't have judgment. We don't do judgment. We don't know how to like turn ourselves down, in relation to the rest of the world. And my friend's mom, I'll never forget this moment. Later on, I was at their house, and my friend's mom pulled me aside, and she was like, Heather, you need to come to church with us. And I really was very grateful that I grew up in a family that didn't do a lot of religion. We didn't do church. We didn't, so grateful for that. I wasn't like indoctrinated into any particular religion. And I was like, oh, okay, why, And she was basically like, because girls that go to church don't lift up their dresses in front of other people. So my friend had told her mom, and her mom was mortified, and she thought I was horrible. And I remember in that moment looking at this lady and being like, I don't even understand. Like, and in the back of my world, I was like, I don't get it. I don't get this. Like, why are you making me wrong? And the other thing that I did, which was the more dominant thing, was I started making myself wrong. I was like, I don't really get this, but I don't really get anything. So I must be kind of dumb. I must be a little stupid. I must be pretty clueless, because I didn't realize that was not appropriate. And if this is what shows up when I do things that aren't appropriate, but I don't know what's not appropriate, and I can't figure it out because it doesn't make any sense to me, then obviously there's something wrong with my brain, and I need to study the world. I need to figure out what works and what doesn't. but none of it made any sense. So in figuring out what works, it's like I had to, one of the things we talk about in Access Consciousness is that in order to understand something, you literally have to stand under it. Like, so if you want to understand somebody, you have to stand under them energetically, and you have to totally mimic their reality with your body and your being and your energetic everything. You have to mimic their reality in order to understand it, because guess what? It doesn't make sense to you because you're a different person and you're a different creature. You are unique. There's nobody else like you in the world, and that is your greatest gift to you and to the rest of the world. You're a different creature. So, but we don't grow up being told that, being, encouraged to explore what that is and how that works and all of that. We don't grow up with any of that. We just grow up with being told that we're wrong and seeing all these places where we're like, I don't get that. I don't get that. I don't get that. I don't get that. I don't get that, And then we become adults and we're like, okay, money. Okay, I need to do money now. How do I do that? I need to do relationships. How do I do that? I don't really know how to do that. That's your brilliance. You don't get this reality because this reality is created, founded, organized, maintained, perpetrated, perpetuated completely on judgment. Completely on judgment. And so as an X-Men don't know how to do judgment. It's not part of our makeup. It doesn't make sense to us. We perceive it dynamically and we learn it, and in that moment with my friend's mom, I went, okay, so, because I was like, I don't really want to experience this again, like this yucky, heavy energy that this lady's bringing my way, And so if I don't want to experience that again, I'm going to need to figure out how to behave appropriately, but from like my mind, which doesn't really work like everybody else's mind, So I'm going to have to like figure it out so that I can like control myself into being appropriate in the world. Anybody else do that ever? And then it just gets applied across the board to everything else that we do, everything else that we be. How do I navigate school? How do I navigate the world? How do I navigate my job? How do I navigate business, creation, money, relationships, my body, parenting, family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even like contributing to the planet. How do I do that? Okay, well, this is the way that other people tell me, So everything, all of this is bringing up and letting down. Can we please destroy and uncreate it? And I'm going to use the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's like a delete button for all kinds of like files in the computer of your mind that are not yours. They're not you. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, POC, POD, shirts, boys, and beyonds. If you want to know more about what that is, you can go to theclearingstatement.com. It's like a ninja tool for change, creation, possibility, clearing that we use and access very dynamically. And it's just a wonderful thing. When I first heard it, I was like, that's really weird. I don't think I'm going to use that. And then here I am, like, I don't know, 10, 11 years later. And it's one of my main tools that I use because it just works. It just deletes stuff. So we'll probably be using it in this series more. So start to look at this for you, and you may be having some ahas as we are talking. But how is it that the world does not make sense to you, never has, and how have you organized yourself, your life, your reality around this arbitrary world of judgment that doesn't make sense to you because you don't know how to do that. You are not that. You are not really capable of that. It's a diminishment of you and your tools and your capacities to actually try to navigate the world the way the world wants to be navigated. What if it was way more about being aware of it, not having judgment of it, not having judgment of you, using it to your advantage to create something greater for you, which also creates something greater for the rest of the world. And as if you're navigating holiday stuff, parties, whatever, I want to like give a nod to the holidays in this series, but I don't really want to make it all about that because I don't really want to make it significant That's another thing that X-Men don't really know how to do. But I also want this to be applicable, everywhere in your life. And everywhere, wherever it may be applicable, and just in the future. But if you're around people, I mean, we're always around people, right? In some way. Notice when you start to go into like figuring people out or judging you because you don't get them. And flip it on its head. Flip it. That's one of my favorite X-Men tools. Just turn it upside down and be like, okay, here's another tool. Everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. You say that 10 times, you turn your mind off. We call it the crazy phrase. And it's an amazing tool because it's like, okay, so if I'm judging me and I think that I'm wrong, I think there's something wrong with me, wrong about me, or I'm like, oh God, that part of my brain is broken. I don't know how to be appropriate in the world, and then I could take that story that I told you and I could run with it, and I could be like, oh God, well, shit. Then, I mean, how do I know that I'm not going to like run around lifting my skirt up in all kinds of places, But no, because I knew what I was doing, I knew what was going to work for me and what wouldn't. But people in this reality would be like, no, you don't, because you did that and it was not appropriate. And they judge to try to change you. But what if in the face of judgment, you're just like, okay, cool. Interesting point of view. That's a judgment. It's not my judgment. I know that I'm brilliant. What's right about me that I'm not getting? What if your wrongness, everything you think is your wrongness, is your greatest strongness? What's right about me that I'm not getting? What's so right about you that you are not getting? Ask that question, because all the things in your life that you think are your biggest weaknesses, and you might have areas of life like, oh, I suck at relationships, I suck at money, I suck at body stuff or whatever, I suck as a parent, da, 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 da. Those are the areas of your brilliance, but you have to turn all of that on its head, and you have to get curious and start to look for a different possibility, a different conversation. So I could just go on. I love these conversations. I was like, 5 minutes, 20 minutes later. So I don't know how long these are going to be. They're all going to be different. But something to chew on and play with for day one here. Please do, please do join I think you guys are all in the Heather Nichols Creations Telegram group. If you're not, and you're seeing this on YouTube, because we're going to put this on YouTube later, heathernichols.com/telegram is how you get there. Use that group to converse, to chat, to, even if you're watching this in 5 months from now or 5 years from now, pop in there and say hi, chat about what's showing up for you, what's your awareness is based on these conversations. And also for those of you guys who are here in real time, like, live with me, let me know in that group too. You can also put in the comments here, but I would rather it be in the group. What are the questions that you have? What are you discovering about yourself, and what questions do you have about this? What are some of the challenges you're facing, some of the things that you're asking about? Because there's a lot that we could explore in this next 5 days. A lot. This is a massive conversation. So I'd love to know where you guys would like to go, where you're curious, and we will play. Okay. Thanks everybody so much for being here. So fun. My first ever Telegram live stream. Thanks for being part of it. Tell your friends. Everybody's welcome to join this. It's free. It's available to everybody. And how does it get better than this? I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.